Correct, Chani.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You see it, John?
Yeah.
I don't see Ellie. Ellie is blocked.
I think he's here, but like his video's off. I don't know.
His video and his I'll show you some very interesting thing I saw. Truma and Tetzaveh. I don't know how you guys feel about it. It's very boring to me, at least. You put this up. If you're an engineer, I guess you maybe enjoy them more, but it should be this long, and this thing. And I just, it gives you all these details. What do you come home with this? I mean, in terms of Torah, what is it? So it really is basically two parashiot that do the same thing. Truma, take the what do you call it? Take the Aron, and then take the menorah, and take the this, and it didn't seem to be something that you can come home with, and say this is what it teaches me something, at least initially. In the end, this weekend, I saw something I'd like to share with you. And because if you take a look at the end of Tetzaveh, something pops up that doesn't make sense. Take a look, just to give you an idea, we'll go over later on what it does, but take a look if you don't mind. It's the very end of Tetzaveh. It's Pasuk Lamed, Perek Lamed, Pasuk Lamed Chet. Anybody want to read it?
Pasuk Lamed Chet is already in Kitisa.
Perek Lamed, Pasuk Lamed Chet, yeah.
I can read it.
Okay.
Ish asher yaseh kamoha.
No. Wait, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It's Kaftet. I got it wrong. It's Kaftet Lamed Chet. I'm sorry. It's Kaftet Lamed Chet.
Okay. Kaftet Lamed Chet. וזה אשר תעשה על המזבח, כבשים בני שנה 2 ליום תמיד.
Keep going. Good. את הכבש אחת תעשה בבוקר.
תעשה בבוקר, ואת הכבש השני תעשה בין הערביים, ויסרון סולת בלול בשמן, כתית רבע ההין, ונסך רביעית ההין יין לכבש האחד. ואת הכבש השני תעשה בין הערביים כמנחת הבוקר וכנסחה, תעשה לה ריח ניחוח יישא להשם. עולת תמיד לדורותיכם, פתח אוהל מועד לפני השם אשר יוועד לכם, שמה לדבר אליך שנה.
Okay, להפסיק כאן. What's wrong with this? What do you see anything wrong with this part in Tetzaveh? This belongs in Vayikra, no? Belongs in Pinchas, where you bring the korbanot. What has that got to do with the Mizbeach? What? It just doesn't seem fit. Does it make sense, the question?
Can you explain it again? What do you mean it doesn't seem fit, like, to what's going on?
Right now, all we've done is we said, make an aron, make a menorah, make a mizbeach, make a shulchan, and suddenly tells you the korban. This doesn't belong here. And what? One pasuk further, Shansky.
וקידשתי את אוהל מועד.
I mean, what's going on over here? All along, this from Truma through Tetzaveh, it's constantly the krisim should be this big. The what do you call it? The adanim should be there. Should be made from this. It's all engineering, and suddenly comes in with a korban, the korban of the morning and the korban of the evening. And with that, you be called Al Tisham. It's in the wrong place. It should be in Vayikra, or it should be in Pinchas, where all korbanot are. Okay? Anybody agree that it's a problem here? It doesn't belong. Doesn't seem to belong here. Beseda?
Mm-hmm.
Now go a little bit further. Skip over, and now Perek Lamed, Pasuk Aleph. Go ahead.
Yeah. ועשית מזבח מקטר קטורת, עצי שיטים תעשה אותו. אמר אורכו.
Now again, now it comes again, it gives you an engineering process, right? ציפית אותו זהב טהור, go, you know, it's just, אמר אורכו, yeah, go ahead.
אמר אורכו ואמר רוחבו, רבוע יהיה ואמתו כמתו ממנו קרנותיו. וציפית אותו זהב טהור, את גגו ואת קירותיו סביב ואת קרנותיו, ועשית לו זר זהב סביב. ושתי טבעות זהב תעשה לו מתחת לזרו, על שתי צלעות תעשה על שני צידיו, והיה לבתים לבדים לשאת אותו בהמה. ועשית את הבדים עצי שיטים וציפית אותם זהב.
It's a very engineering thing, puts gold around, go ahead.
ונתת אותו לפני הפרוכת אשר על ארון העדות, לפני הכפורת אשר על העדות, אשר יבעד לך שמה. והקטיר עליו הארון.
There's something special here. First of all, shouldn't this Mizbeach HaZahav been described before when the Shulchan and Menorah and all? Why at the end? Huh? Is
You mean to say Mizbeach HaKtoret, not Mizbeach HaZahav?
Yeah, Mizbeach HaKtoret. Mizbeach HaKtoret should be part of all the different things inside the Beit HaMikdash, in the Mishkan. Why does he wait for this? And not only that, make sure it's Asher Alaydo Asher Iva'ed Lecha Shama. There's something messages here, and you remember just before that when the Kvasim come, there's some kind of a message going on here. It's not just engineering. If I went to engineering, I say, look, the Shulchan is this big, the Mizbeach HaKtorot is this big, the Mizbeach this is this big. But somehow he waits to the end of the whole story, and at the very end he starts with the Mizbeach Kvasim, then Sham ledaber elecha nalikan, and now Mizbeach of Ketoret, Asher Iva'el Lecha Shama, and the next is even more interesting. Who wants to read? Pasuk Zayin.
Read. V'ktir alav Aaron Ketoret samim baboker behitivo at haniro yektirana.
One more pasuk.
Uvahalot Aaron at haniro bin ha'arbaim yektirana Ketoret tamid l'fnei Hashem l'dorot.
What's going on here? When you bring the Ketoret, make sure it's the same time that you bring the nerot are lit. Again, what's lighting the candles and the menorah have to do with Ketoret? And not make sure in the evening, whenever you light the menorah, make sure the Ketoret tamid lifnei Hashem l'dorotechem. Something is not, that doesn't add up. If you want to write an engineering, the architecture of the Mishkan, go in order. Tell me this and this and this and this, and included is also the Mizbeach HaKetoret. And what does the Ketoret have to do with what do you call it, with the Nerot? And why bring in the middle of it on the Mizbeach Kvasim B'nei Shana, which bring me no adati lachem? There's something that sticks here. There's a message here. So I'd like to share this idea with you. It's not my complete about it. It's sort of this past Friday night. I saw it suddenly come to me. If you want to go back to the very, very beginning of Truma, the very beginning of Truma, it says Yikru Truma, and the first thing you make is Pasuk Yud. And Per Cafe wants to read it.
I'll read. ועשו ארון עצי שיטים 2.5 אורכו, ו1.5 רוחבו, ו1.5 קומתו.
Skip it a little bit. Now he gives you all the details. But look at this. Go to Yudchet. Pasuk Yudchet.
ועשית 2 כרובים זהב מקשה, תעשה אותם משני קצות הכפורת.
So now this aron is different. This aron is, besides how big it is, you put kruvim on it. Skip to pasuk kaf aleph just to get an idea.
Anyone else want to read, or should I do it?
Kaf aleph, whoever wants to.
kaporet al ha'aron mil ma'ala ve'el ha'aron titin et ha'edu asher etain elecha.
Now the last piece is very important.
V'no adati lecha sham v'dibarti itcha me'al ha'kaporet mibein shnei ha'kruvim asher ha'aron ha'edu et kol asher hatzavet lecha al bnei Yisrael.
Suddenly you get a different understand what's going on here. I'm going to build, you should build a Mishkan. And the first thing I'm telling you to do is an Aron. And I'm giving you the engineering, right? The architect. But wait a minute. Besides everything else, you should put on that the Kruvim, V'no'adeti lecha sham, v'dibarti itcha ma'al ha'kaporet, asher alon ha'edut. No'aditi. What does no'aditi mean? I'll have a rendezvous with you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I want you to build a Mishkan. But in the first thing I want you to know is a place called Aron. And in the Aron will be a place where Kruvim and the Aron and the Luchot will be in it. And that will be a place where I can rendezvous with you. V'no'aditi lecha sham. Now, if you take a look again, when we did the Tetzaveh at the very end, by the Korbanot, Pasuk Mem Gimel, in Perek Kaftet, V'no'alti shama livnei Yisrael, v'nikdash bichvodi. What's going on? On the one hand, there's Aron HaKodesh, where Hashem is No'ad. On the other hand, is Mizbeach, not the Ktoret, the Mizbeach, Pashut Mizbeach outside. They don't even go into, also No'adati. And suddenly it became obvious. There are two places man and God connect. In the Aron, Hashem comes down from heaven, so to speak, into the Kruvim and speaks to us. The Mizbeach, we bring the Korban and go up to Hashem. It's not one-sided. It's directional. In fact, where is the Mizbeach? The Mizbeach of the Korbanot, not the Ktoret, the other one, the Mizbeach and the Choshev. Where is it located?
Inside the Kodesh.
No, the Mizbeach. It's in the Chatzer. It's nowhere near the house. It's beautiful to see. Mankind is mankind, and it can go up to heaven this way, and then there is a place for God. And in that place, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when the Kodesh Kodashim comes down to man, it's a yin yang. It's together. And that makes such a sense. Beginning at the beginning of Truma is Aron, V'no'adati Shalach. The end of Tetzaveh is the Mizbeach, the Korbanot, V'no'adati D'cham, because God and man connect with each other. On the one hand, God Kivyochel comes down, and the other hand, the Mizbeach, which is outside the Mishkan, outside the Bayit, goes up. Man goes up, God comes down, and they rendezvous together. V'no'adati L'chad, Le'yot Mu'adim B'yachad. But then comes one more interesting thing. Where do you think? Why does Hashem wait with the Mizbeach HaKetoret? Remember, we entered. It should have been part of that. And what is this thing between the lighting the menorah, and bringing the Ketoret? What does the Ketoret do, really? Anybody know? There's Anan HaKetoret. What that means, Anan HaKetoret? What does an Anan? What's an Anan?
Covers up.
It covers. So now man is able to see with the light. We can see God in a certain, because of the menorah. Without the menorah, that light, the light that you put in your bulbs or and you put in your flashlight, doesn't see God. You see God through the menorah. But at the same time, you cannot see God completely. At the same time, there is a a mist between us and God, so to speak. You can see Panai lo yirau, Achorai tiru. I suddenly see the whole part, the two parshiyot, one component of a story. It's beautiful. It starts out with Aaron HaKodesh, which is going to be in Kodesh Kadoshim. V'no'aleti lecha sham b'tzul kruvim. God kiviyachol comes down, and I'm going to give you outside the Mishkan, outside b'chatzer, where you have ability to go up to God through the korbanot. So there's up and down. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to see God, so to speak, through the menorah, but there better be a ketoret there too. Baboker, be'tivot hanerot, make sure that there is an understanding. Man cannot see God completely, but man makes the effort to make it through the menorah. So suddenly these two pashiyot make such a sense. They're not just an engineering, architectural blueprint. They give you a message. I'm going to give you an opportunity, said God, to connect with me. On the one hand, I'll come down. On the outside, you come up. And there'd be an interaction between us. And actually, through the menorah, the beautiful ability to see. And at the same time, there'll be a certain level of ketoret anan that holds back. Man can go to God. God can go to man. But there's always that little mystical thing. Man cannot see the whole thing. So I think that beautiful idea, these two pashiyot suddenly made a whole new difference to me. They're not just a blueprint for how to make the Mishkan. They're a blueprint how to make the Mishkan and what it means. And what else happens when Shlomo Melech builds a Beit HaMikdash? The same thing. The Mizbeach is outside. The Aron HaKodesh is inside. And that's where man and God, so to speak, connect with each other, up and down. And yet there's always an in-between. No, anybody want to add anything to this? It's yours. All these years, it was very boring. You know, 4 amot, 5 amot, 5. I don't even know how big an amah is. Anybody know how big is an amah?
It's about half a meter.
So how much is it back? All right. A
meter is about 2 amot.
See this magnificent interaction between man and God, God and man, the ability to come up and down, and yet there's always the ability to see God in a certain respect, and there's always an ability you can't completely see God.
Saba.
Yeah,
Saba.
Anybody else want to say anything about it?
Saba.
Yes.
It's interesting that with Aaron, it's only the Kohen Gadol who could go, and as opposed to the korbanot, which could be brought from everyone could bring korbanot.
Exactly, and when Aaron, I didn't want to go 100%. When the Kohen Gadol goes on Yom Kippurim, what does he carry with him? The Ketoret. The Ketoret. He has to go inside the Ketoret. He cannot see everything there. That was the big thing. Remember the Ketzukim and Pushim. When the Al Yavo B'chol Et El HaKodesh, even Aaron HaKohen, even the Kohen Gadol cannot. When he goes in, he sees, but he's got to have a ketoret in his hand. And yes, I didn't go 100%, yeah. And once a year, you could go as close as possible, but you better bring a ketoret with you, because man cannot completely fathom God, and yet we can go as close as possible. And I can't do it. And from your side, your grandfather, he was a Kohen, but even the Kohen cannot completely go in. He goes in, but he's got to have a ketoret. Interesting that he doesn't have to bring a ketoret then. Remember the machta, comes up very nicely. I think it just buttresses the argument even stronger. Anybody else want to say anything?
Thank you, Saba. It's very interesting.
I think it's fascinating. It's